Incremental readings. This is 22nd section of the Pleasurable Guide to SuperMemo, the Fluency cycle dedicated to the knowledge tree. Navigating and building the knowledge tree, both. This has been always announced, mentioned, and so on, but it was never the focus. You also know that it's optional. So we'll see what is a knowledge tree, why is optional. Find your balance between building the knowledge tree. Don't spend too much time at the expense of learning. Then the knowledge tree hierarchy lines, so how is represented, what this means, all of those lines you see here. And then again, a break just for the nomenclature. Because we have child, descendant, sibling, branch, parent, source, folder, leaf, root, node. What is all of this? And sometimes an element can be more than one at the same time. Can be a parent, a folder, and a node at the same time. So it's not just discrete labels. And that's what we'll cover here. Then what are the benefits of the knowledge tree? And finally, the second subsection, that is the navigating. It's not just scrolling. There's more than that. And then creating elements from the knowledge tree, the pros and cons, because those are more or less meant for the 90s or early 2000s, when SuperMemo was like this, before it introduced incremental reading. And there are some features that have been left over that are not for incremental reading. And now, after more than 2 decades, it's not that easy to see the difference. What is meant for incremental reading and what is not meant for incremental reading, in short. Then we will see a few features like regroup in folders or rearrange. Then resort the knowledge tree contents as a perk. This is a use case. Filtering, something to delete at once because SuperMemo doesn't have yes to all. And then a few philosophies how to do the knowledge tree. As a taxonomist, artisan, architect, or synthesizers. This is the easiest. Those are just mentioned in a slideshow with a few examples in the slide, but not anything tangent. Again, in the mastery, this will be developed, or perhaps not all of them, but most of the useful, and some others will be in the SuperMemo in action, that I read an entire book or have a project, and I will be constructing the knowledge tree following one of those philosophies, just for being comprehensive. That, hey, it's something I'm not going to do myself, meaning it won't be genuine in my collection, therefore I will need to push it, and I will do a project just for the record. Because I record the course myself, everything is done by me, so I will do it in a project artificially, so I can show it to you. Because I will not do this myself. It's to overcome this limitation. And that's about it. So by the end of this section, you will have a better knowledge, no pun intended, of the knowledge tree, how it can be grown, the pros and cons, the different ways to do it, all of the jargon, most of the jargon, and what to expect in the future once it grows in your own collection. So without further ado, let's start the section. So now we start focusing on the knowledge tree, something we have seen, but now we're going to dig deeper into it. So what's a knowledge tree in SuperMemo? Is this thing, as you may have seen already in many videos, inside the contents window. Sometimes, instead of contents window, we just call it the knowledge tree, because it's the most relevant thing there is in the window. So it's a place that you organize your learning material. All of your what? All of your elements are represented in a hierarchical manner in your collection. So every single element that exists in your collection must appear in the knowledge tree, in the contents window. Then you can think that as a digital file cabinet. So there's hierarchy. You cannot use tags, so you have to decide how you structure the information, because you can only choose one. And then All of each level of hierarchy is a branch. Nice. We'll tackle that jargon later on. Most importantly, but what's the purpose of the knowledge tree? The only purpose of the knowledge tree is organization for the user and emphasis on the user. The algorithm doesn't care about your knowledge tree. You could have a flat collection of millions if you really want to, that the algorithm is not going to change. So it's just for the user. It helps you to do what? Categorize information, classify information. Oh, that's biology, that's history, or that's for an exam, or I have this for a deadline, this is for my job, high priority, whatever. Then locate the material. So now if I want to search something about SuperMemo, it will be easier because at least I can narrow it down to this folder. Okay, I still have 4,700 elements. It's quite a lot, but it's already something, right? And I can niche down and so on. Then manage learning. You can tell SuperMemo to learn material for only one branch. So I could do, no. I only want to do a session today about SuperMemo course. Don't show me anything elsewhere in a knowledge tree. It's called the subset review. And I can import new knowledge and expand my knowledge, my collection, based on that. Hey, I want to get more about space repetition. I can do that easily. Then, equally important is what's not. So the knowledge tree is not about. It's not part of the algorithm. The knowledge tree does not affect the space repetition algorithm at all. So it doesn't matter if I nest a lot or I don't nest and I neglect the knowledge tree. SuperMemo will schedule the same thing. What will be massively different, by the way, will be what we will see later on, is the neural review. But neural review is for creativity, not retention. Then, the knowledge tree does not build connections in your brain. It does on the software, not on your brain. You have to do the job yourself. It's like a second brain or personal knowledge management. You do it on a software artificially because you rely on retrieval of information from queries, not from your memory. That's the difference. In incremental reading, you learn. It's a learning app. It's not based on retrieval. Yes, retrieval, but from your brain, not the software. So the connections you do in the software stays in the software, not necessarily happen in your brain. Or saying in other words, you'll do connections in your brain that are not in your collection. When you see the big picture and so on. Understanding the connections between concepts and so on. So the tree is just a way to store the granular information, but not to connect them meaningfully in your brain. Meaning that the knowledge tree is not going to give you the big picture. You are going to have the big picture, build the big picture elsewhere, but not because of the knowledge tree. So this is a high-level perspective of the knowledge tree, what it is and what is not it. I think it's clear enough, but we'll have a dedicated section, so we'll go deeper than that. This is just the appetizer. Now that we know what's the knowledge tree and what is not, we also know that the knowledge tree is optional. You can neglect it if you want. There are some perks, but it's non-essential. You can use incremental reading without a knowledge tree. That doesn't mean it's useless. There are some perks that we will see later, but it's non-essential. So we'll see now why. The knowledge tree SuperMemo is a human-facing organization tool, so it's just for the user. Meaning, the algorithm, the computer, does not need that. That's a massive thing already. The tree is for you, not for the algorithm. It provides structure and clarity for the human, the user. And the tree structure does not directly affect SuperMemo course learning algorithm, like scheduling repetitions. At some degree it does, depends on how you use SuperMemo. The fact that there are siblings, or one is parent of the other, it may inherit, at the time of the creation, it might inherit the priority and so on. But beyond that, yes, the priority that is set will have a consequence indirectly, because it will be, if it's slow, it will be delayed, postponed, and so on, and likely will have a different performance. But it doesn't compute in the equation. It's a consequence of the daily usage. Then, the benefits of a structured tree, so you care about it. You have an improved organization, so I can find something quite a lot easier. Also depends on the size of the collection. So in this backup, I have 90,000 elements. So my general collection now has more than 200,000. So even though I keep the same organization level, it will be harder just because of the number of elements I have. Then, the benefits of the knowledge tree also is focused learning, because I can fine tune that, hey, I want to do a subset review of just this. It's a lot easier. If I don't, I'll have to do a search, but the search, especially if it's by keywords, I will have false positives, because natural languages, doesn't have to be English, are very inefficient in this aspect. So a lot of words have multiple meanings and so on. So you'll have something you don't want to. And if you have, no, I only want specifically references in SuperMemo, super fine-tuned. I can easily do that. And finally, battery review management. Make it easier to schedule and prioritize reviews by topic. Yeah, exactly. That, okay, are references more important than close deletion? I don't think so. The close deletion is more important for me. So I already know how to prioritize. Heuristically, what I have here in references will be lower than close deletion. So if close deletion needs 10, that will be 11 at the highest. Next is finding your balance. Start simple, dead simple, don't overdo it, and incrementally. So as your collection grows, you will have the requirement that, hey, it's too much, let me divide, let me be more specific, right? Like I did with psychology. And then it's, no, let me have social psychology and neuropsychology. Then what I did is the mistake that I did every single possible subdivision of psychology, like 14, even though I only had 4 items there, or 4 topics. I did an overkill. I did it too preemptively, too soon. So what's the key? Balance, adapt. Wait to have their need and act on that need. Don't do it preemptively, because you pay. It's like paying insurance for a car you might buy. But what happens if you don't buy the car? You pay the insurance anyways. It doesn't make sense, right? Then, why is that the priority for learning? Because the tree helps you manage the material, but not the reflection of the knowledge of that material in your mind. You don't need to manually build connections in the tree for learning to happen. Exactly. First, I don't do it in SuperMemo, but it happened in my brain, the connection. That's a thing. And the other way around is also true. Not because I do this explicitly in SuperMemo, this connection, I link this element with this element, or concept, means it happens in my brain. That is a very optimistic assumption. And even if it happens, you will forget it if you don't review it. So, the same thing as it didn't happen in the first place. And the real knowledge gap is in your head, not in SuperMemo. The mental map is formed gradually by understanding semantic links between different concepts that you learn. SuperMemo just provides you the granulars of knowledge, items, topics, tasks, and concepts, if you will, to help you build and refresh that mental structure effectively. SuperMemo just tells you what to see again in which particular day. That's it. There's some other stuff that it can do, but for incremental reading, that's 95% of the job SuperMemo does. Schedules, whatever, in the future. It doesn't do anything else. All of the semantic links happen in your brain. That's why some people who are not used, they don't have this skill set. They come from cramming only. They don't know how to do that. They say, hey, that doesn't work. Yeah, that doesn't work because what you're doing is different from what is expected to be done. You expect something to be done by SuperMemo when it has to be done by you. But in the aspect just for the knowledge tree, let's not go off topic. That is more or less why there is a knowledge tree, why it's optional, and why you can do incremental reading without it. Even though I suggest to use it, but as always, incrementally. Now that we're digging into the knowledge tree, I want to spend some time on the physical aspect of the user interface about the knowledge tree, which is not that obvious, and it's quite tiny. So you have all of this. Indentation means it's a child. It's a hierarchy step. So a SuperMemo course is a child of Pleasurable learning, and incremental reading loop is a child of SuperMemo course. Then space repetition, it's in the same level. There's no indentation, therefore it's a sibling. Awesome. Then how SuperMemo displays this is that you have this line of dots. You don't have it in the first one, in the root. You have it on the level of the child. Okay. Then if I now expand this, I have the same thing. I have now a second dotted line until the very end. So I can know, especially if I have to scroll. Let me do that. Now it doesn't fit the screen. I know it still continues. Here you go. Or the opposite. I don't see the actual folder, but I see it dance here. Awesome. Then there is a third level because this is from this topic. And this is the hierarchy that it has. And then I have the hierarchy is dotted in this case. Awesome. So far, so good. Then I can collapse it and I will have the 3 dots or 4 dots. Okay. Now, let me go to a different place so I can have like this. Okay, that's a good example. I have items. Okay, but those items, it's weird because they have hierarchy. It's unusual, but it's still SuperMemo displays that as an expected folder. Awesome. So we would say if we go here, do you see all of the jumps in the ancestors window? SM, control, keyboard, the SuperMemo, that will be plain in English and concept pleasurable learning are all of the what? All of the ancestors, all of the parents, each time. Basically, it's each time it's nested. That's why here it's a child is actually nesting, even if there are two items. Then, in this case, why it stops here? Or what there is no plus sign? Because this one doesn't have any child. As easy as that. Not because it's dismissed, because here it's not dismissed, but there's no child. The child, in this case, is because it's the other way around. So it's the same question. What does this do? Does this. And the child is, if I want to do this, what's the key binding for it? Boom. It's the same question, but the reverse. Okay. So I hope now it's clear that those dots and so on, sometimes if it's really nested, you can see many lines, and depending on the contents window, there's a place that you only see the lines, the hierarchy. That was true when I did processed a textbook of 900 pages that had sections, parts, chapters, subchapters, a lot of hierarchy already. So remember, those lines are important, and this is especially tricky when we want to move things around. I will have a dedicated video, but just to let you know that if I want to move this, let's say, oh sorry, it's not control, it's shift, and I change the modifier. What this means, if I do it here. This will be inside shift. But if I do this, what does that mean? Do you know what I mean? What? It's now a line, underline, or the other thing. This will make a difference when moving stuff around. That's why, even if it looks like a very small detail, it's required to know that. And one detail is that if you are in the dead last element, here you go. This is the very last element. in my knowledge tree. I know that by the dots and because everything here is empty. The line here doesn't continue, or the second level doesn't continue. So even if I didn't have the rest of the window, I will know already I'm at the very end. So that's how it looks. One of the easy stuff to understand in SuperMemo. I hope the background doesn't scare you. This is a selection, not all of it, of the glossary in SuperMemo. And I wanted to present it this way to convey a point. That with this guide should be a lot easier because a lot of things have been introduced already. Perhaps not even the point of that video, but it was required in that video, so it was still just described in 10 seconds. Like branch, sibling, child, and so on, or concept group. We have a dedicated video for that. But there's still more stuff here. I think it's good to pause and just do a recap and add some new layers. All of the nomenclature related to the knowledge tree. Why? Because in this section we're going to use quite a lot of jargon specific to the knowledge tree. Then I'm not going to read this because this is what? It's verbatim the definition in the glossary, which I mean it's possible, it's doable, but with the Pleasurable guide it should be a lot easier. Then, where we are now, contents. We're here. Knowledge tree nomenclature review. This is especially interesting because this is childless. There's no child. Do you see I don't have the icon to expand, unlike the other sibling? Oops, I already did that. Sibling. What is this? Sibling is an element in the contents window, in the knowledge tree, that is located in the same level of hierarchy. Therefore, in the same level of nesting. So the power structure is a sibling. Nice. We have said there are no children. The other one has children. Basically, it's one level lower of hierarchy directly. Meaning, for instance, if we take the example of the reference of this, knowledge and building, navigating and building the knowledge tree, that's the section of the course, then the power structure is a child, but the benefits are not. Those are grandchild. And that makes a difference, because a child is the very first one level below, and just one level. Here you go. And Descendant is any level, located in one or more. So Sibling is one level, and Descendant is one or more. Easy. We have the opposite. Benefits 1, the parent, is power of a structure, and its parent is navigating and building a knowledge tree. But this one is not the parent of the benefit, it's the grandparent, right? Therefore, parent is, again, parent is +1, and the ancestors are, parent is just 1, and the ancestors are +1. Oh my god, it doesn't look the same because it's SuperMemo and it strips the styling. So saying it like this is super easy. So the course has all of those sections, close deletion, space repetition, apply done, splitting, web imports, collection management, why SuperMemo, elements, collection layouts, and it continues. All of these, between them, are sections of the course, and in the knowledge tree are siblings. All of them are what? Are children of SuperMemo course. And then whatever they contain, the slides they contain, which is another layer of hierarchy, then those are descendants. And for those descendants, they are the ancestors. Because it's more than just a parent. Easy. Then, we also mentioned branch already. The branch is the element in the knowledge tree with all of the descendants, including its children. So, SuperMemo course and everything inside it, so the children and the children of those children, and if there's a 4-level hierarchy and all of the descendants, those are the subset. And it's right there, subset elements on your face. Keep in mind this is relevant because then For instance, is hey, I want to filter the descendants, or perhaps just the extracts, which is a different thing, because the extract could be done. Let me quickly do it. If I have some text here, I can do an extract, and now this extract. Let me do the reference. Okay. So now I add the reference, so I have the parent. If I click the parent, it goes here. It's the parent in the knowledge tree, but I can move this to any level. Let me put it at the very end. And now it's here. The parent is the root, but now if I click the parent, hey, it's the root. But this is the physically now in the knowledge tree. But if but just to make my point, I can go here, child. We will see this later, and the source, and I go to the same place as before. This is where I did the what, the extract. That's why what is there physically in the knowledge tree is optional at the end of the day, because I could locate whatever I want through the browser anyways. Awesome. So now we know the branch is just what is physically there. So if I have moved something manually or through a concept hook, it won't be there. So therefore, remember, this is very important, is what is in this element, folder in this case, and all of the children and descendants physically there. If there's something that is from there, but elsewhere in the knowledge tree is not inside. That is a concept. Remember that concept is physical. Then we have the concept group, which already criticized, because in this case will be the same. Because in this case happens to be a concept. All of the hierarchy down, all of the descendants have said the same concept, and there's no concept inside it. But could be the case that nested here in the knowledge tree is the concept itself. Then this doesn't hold anymore, because some of the descendants will have one of the child concepts, not the same concept. SuperMemo course in this case. So no worries, I explained this in detail before. Then what's left? Let's go to the bottom. A leaf is one childless element. That's why I started with this. So the knowledge tree nomenclature review, it's not a folder, because a folder requires children or descendants. Therefore, this is a leaf. In this case, it's dismissed. It's not a requirement. Could be in any state, it will be a leaf. Easy. One childless element. Why? Because in SuperMemo, the only ones who are usually leaves are items. You can nest items like I did, like a duplicate, to do the vice versa option of the flashcard. But usually, if it's a topic or a task or a concept, it should have children. Perhaps not right after creation, but sooner or later it should have children, or it's prone to be deleted. Awesome. Then we have two things left, node and root node. Let's start with the easiest. Root node is the root of the branch, so the root element. What happens? It's pleasurable learning in my case. What happens is that the root element, again, has children. With this, becomes a node. Doesn't have to be a folder. By default, it's dismissed. You can memorize it like I did. Now it's not dismissed. Therefore, pleasurable learning is not a folder. It's a memorized concept. So it's a what? This pleasurable learning, it's a concept group, because everything hierarchy down should have the same concept, which is not the case. You remember that I don't agree with that definition, but let's pretend it's the same. Therefore, by definition, it's a concept group. Nice. There's nothing here in this collection that can have its own hierarchy. It cannot be a sibling of pleasurable learning. It's impossible. Has to be a child. This makes it the root element. At the same time that it's an element, it's a node, because it contains children. And because it's a concept, it's also a concept group. If it was a task, it won't be the case. Easy. So now we know what is the root node. And then we have nodes. I think it's the least, the word. I have used the least in my course. But if you remember, when we import, now I'm going to use the old importer so I avoid showing my own stuff. One of the import methods is the location, and it says new node, if you remember. Then is one element in the knowledge tree presented in the contents window. Okay. Can be any element type. Gotcha. You can add new nodes, then that means that any element, regardless of its type, including items, can be a node. Has the capacity to be a node. But not because it exists, it's already a node. You can add new nodes, add insert at the bottom of the context. If a node does not have children, it's called a leaf. Hey, this is a leaf already. So are you telling me that this knowledge tree nomenclature review topic, it's a leaf because it contains no children, but it's also a node? Yes, because anytime I can right click and insert a child. So I use it as a node in the knowledge tree. And this is purely physical. So it will become physically a child, even though there's no relationship. That's why really at the end of the day, very essentially, what's physically a child and a parent in the knowledge tree doesn't mean anything. It's for you how it is. Doesn't mean necessarily this has been extracted, this child has been extracted from here, because I did a close deletion, or now I do an extract. Now this is purely a child. It's a child in the knowledge tree, but it's a child because this is the source. Okay, and it looks terrible now. Oh, it broke the styling. Okay. Then this one is genuine. This one is fake, and now I can even copy paste it if I want to make my point. So, hey, what happened here? Now it's the same. No, it's not. One is physically a child and semantically a child. The other, this one, and this one at the top, is just physically a child without being semantically a child. Because I just added the what? The add child. This is physical and sibling. Nice. Then, any has a capacity because I can do it with elements. With other elements, including items we have seen here. In this case, I did it through a duplicate feature. I duplicated the element that becomes a child, but I can do explicitly a child and manually type it in. We'll have the same effect. And then, to come full circle, oh, I need a typo here, physical. We set branch, right? And we'll have a section dedicated for subsets and all of this, which will use the branches. Then a branch, this is a branch because has hierarchy down, has descendants, child, children, or at least, or descendants. Descendants are not required, are more levels of nesting. Then this now, knowledge tree nomenclature review, is no longer a leaf because I created two children. Even though there's only one real children, the other is just physically there. From the perspective of this nomenclature, I don't care. It's physically there, yes. If it's semantically a child or not, I don't care. I only care if it's physically there. Since it's there, it is no longer a leaf, it's an what? A branch. Because you cannot do a subset of a branch because it will be itself if there's no children, if it makes sense. Therefore, a leaf, let me go, this benefit, it's a leaf, because I haven't did any close deletion. Okay. The parent is not a leaf. The parent is a node, yes, everything is a node, but it's a branch. And if the branch happens to be a dismissed topic, then it's a branch and a folder at the same time. But not just that, because it's an element, it's also a what? A node, because I can use it to create hierarchy, physical hierarchy. And if it's childless, so therefore it's just a leaf, I can still use it to create hierarchy. And now it has hierarchy, and now it's no longer a leaf, now it's a branch. So I wanted to emphasize that the nomenclature doesn't use just one dimension or one purpose. Some are physical, some are semantic, some are context dependent. And that's why it can be overlapping. You can have a folder that is also a branch, or a leaf that is also a branch, and at the same time, both are nodes. And at the same time, could be a what? A concept group, if it's a concept. So it won't be a folder, but it will be a concept group. And in case of the pleasurable learning, it's also the root. Root element, root node, node, concept group, and branch, all at the same time. And it will be the ancestor of all of the children. So it can be 5 things at the same time, one single element. And let me tell you, that's the fluency level. If you want a rabbit hole with more nomenclature, there is. Believe me, this is filtered, just for the fluency. I hope I have fun with this. I think you can tell that I really enjoy this. So from now on, from the rest of the section, I will say the jargon here and there, sometimes reminding something, but I will take this for granted most of the time. Then, considerations and downsides. It's a time investment, because I have to do what? Concepts, manage the concepts, set the concepts after importing or closing and whatever. That takes some time from the actual learning. Then rigidity is hierarchical. That something very easy to grasp. So I have the key shortcuts of SuperMemo. So what I did is I split them by modifier or combination of modifiers, and then I have this, and I have this by order, and I specify the window and so on. Okay, but I have decided one structure. So what if I wanted the other way around? First, by window, it can be activated, and then the key binding, alphabetically, let's say. Since I decided by key binding, I cannot do any other hierarchy now. I will need to use tags instead. But in SuperMemo you don't have that. So whatever you choose, keep in mind, it won't be perfect because it's rigid, and it's like a toolbox. It's nice, but it's useless if you never actually use it. So if you fine-tune this difference, but you spend time, but you never do subsets, you never do this difference, you have spent time that is lost at the end of the day. So don't let organization overshadow the learning. Let's see the positive effects, the benefits of using a knowledge tree. So you have a cognitive enhancement because mirrors more or less the brain, how you organize information. For instance, this is by section of the course. Then here I have by software. In each software I have the shortcuts per modifier. In incremental reading I have, for instance, disease, supplements, aging, snoring, sleep, exercise. At the end of the day, it's health, but I'm more specific about food and whatever. Okay. You have superior organization, and you put your level. Before, I just did health. For me, that's the same. Yeah, it goes one more into exercise, during the sleep or the diet, which are one of the big pillars. But no, you could say, no, this goes into the diet. Even though the diet is for longevity and health, could be for performance or whatever. And synergy with incremental reading provides the essential framework for the most powerful feature, that is incremental reading. Then, the benefit we set is enhanced cognitive function. Let's distill this. Promotes understanding, because I'm deciding the child or the dimensions I want to. That is like a review of the big picture. I'm aware that health depends, or well-being, depends on my diet, what I eat, depends on how I sleep, and exercise is fundamental. Not any kind of exercise. Some kind of exercise in a certain dose, intensity, frequency, and so on. So by deciding this hierarchy, this classification, promotes understanding, even if it's very high level, very rudimentary. Then also helps recall, because I will recall, even if I only recall my concepts, that, hey, I import something, what do these verbs? Let me see. Oh yeah, this is about exercise. I don't know, you know what? This is more specifically Pilates. Or this is food, right? I have food somewhere else. Here, food. But no, but this is about cooking. It's not the product itself, it's the cooking method that you add chemicals that are like deep frying and all of this, right? So it's how you cook the meals, not the meal itself. Hey, but I do this for what? For health at the end of the day. But I have more specifically kidney health, right? Because I have some congenital things, something I have inherited from my parents, and I have a high risk of this. So, hey, let me prevent or let me postpone at maximum this thing that I'm very prone to have. As I get older, it's almost unavoidable that I will have that, right? Or snoring. That, hey, I have a sleep, but because sleep is very important, but hey, I also want to dig into snoring because I snore. That doesn't mean apnea necessarily, it's just that you make noise. But they are related, if you know what I mean. So just by deciding, hey, this is snoring, no, this is just sleep and so on, helps me with retrieving information in a hierarchical manner. Not that, oh, this is sleep. About the sleep. That's it. Oh, this is exercise. For whatever. Could be for low back pain or for building muscle. Goals very different from each other. That's just exercise. Right? So first thing is a big picture. You have more granularity. And the other we have said is the superior information management. It's like a side effect. So even if you don't want to, you have scalability. You can handle thousands of items without becoming unwieldy, because I can do a subset that, hey, let me just do health. For instance, barefoot running. So barefoot running is exercise as well. But look at that, it's 600 already, just this. So that I want exercise unrelated to barefoot running, I have the other one, so I can cherry pick. And okay, at maximum I will have 2,000 here, 5,000 there. I don't have 50,000 in the same concept group. That is just health, very broad. There is also insufficient organization, because I can go to the place I want, because every concept will have a concept group, so it's a lot easier. Also helps with priorities, because I can tell, hey, is Pilates more important than barefoot running? Depends, right? That, hey, I don't have an hernia, I have something I forgot now the name in English, a protrusion. So when I was doing a lot of biking and so on, and gaining weight with biking, while biking. That means that, hey, I may want to do some exercises to have certain musculature very fit, so this goes slower and I don't have a hernia until much later, or I don't have pain, which is my case. This happened some years ago, and I don't experience the least amount of pain, like I forgot I had that. So if I stop doing that, or I do some exercise that it doesn't do well, I will start experiencing pain. Therefore, I will prioritize this over what is more for fat loss, that this can wait, or could be less efficient. But I do prioritize not having pain over weight loss. and simplified maintenance. I can export, delete. I want this to go to another platform like Yankee or a different collection. Hey, let me have about exercise in a different collection on its own. It's a lot easier to move this and maintain this. So therefore, the engine is a synergy with incremental ring. The knowledge tree is optional, but it's very, very good when it's used, albeit not essential. Then, as a review of incremental ring is top-down workflow. You import an article, then you decide it's about quantum mechanics. Let's say the Wikipedia article. Then, relevant branch, you decide this from what? A concept. Hey, I'm going to import it in physics. Physics is nested below science, which is nested below knowledge. Then you create an extract out of this, it becomes a child, then you formulate, you do a close deletion, and so on. This will leave you a tree, how you distilled the article, but it's already there. If the article is very comprehensive and have, I don't know, etymology, history, perhaps the section of history, I will move it to a history if I have an article, if I have a concept about history, if I do care. Context is key. So as long as you keep this, it doesn't matter if you have more granularity or less granularity on this and that. First, depends on how you care. If it's low priority for me, I will be less granular. I won't have a concept just for the history of the quantum mechanics on the field. But some people who are in the field work on that. It will be higher priority, and they will also niche down more the concepts. It's totally valid, depends on you. There's no right and wrong. The right is to adjust according to your priorities. The wrong is not to adjust, whatever that is, for the context. So that's everything for now. Non-essential, albeit powerful. Let's focus now on the first part, that is navigating the knowledge tree. It's quite complex. There are a lot of key bindings for it. It's not just using the mouse. So you know, for instance, if you click the plus, this collapse or uncollapse the branch, then you can right-click to get the menu. You can control and space to get the contents, the what? All of the branch, the elements of that branch in the browser window, and so on. So let's focus. First, just a reminder, to get their contents, if it's already there, let's see, it's here, it's where it's selected contents, and it will highlight it, or Control C. Awesome. Then I can achieve the same result as clicking with Enter. Do you see Enter? Collapses or uncollapses. It's just a toggle of the state. Okay. With the arrows, I can go up, and now I go to every single sibling, because they are collapsed. If now I do the same, but going down, still works. But now I go down and I go to the child because it's collapsed. If I collapse this, I will go to the next sibling. Do you see? Okay. Then if I add the control and then I go up, I go to the parent. Regardless of where am I? Let's say fonts, control up, goes to the parent. In other words, in the ancestors, it's like clicking here. If I'm in the fonts and I click here, has the same effect. Awesome. Up is going to the up in the knowledge tree. If it's a sibling or a parent, with control, the next parent. And the opposite has a slight different effect. So if I am on elements and I go control down, I go to the last child, as long as there is children. So now if I go up, I navigate on the siblings, and with control, I go to the parent. Now with enter, I can collapse it and continue. Nice. If I'm in the last child, what I will do with down is going to the next branch. The next, not sibling, because here is not the same level. Is sibling of the parent, is the next element. If it's collapsed, will be the next sibling, unless I do the control. Or the control or enter to uncollapse it, and then navigate. Depends on you. Okay. So we have seen enter, up, down, and control, up, down. Awesome. Now we have home and end. Control home goes to the very first element, your root element. It's the same as Control G and 1. Same effect. Because the first element is always the root. And if I do Control End, I go to what? To the last element. Here you go. Not the last element that I created. No. The last element in the knowledge tree. That is a random extra I did in a previous video, if you remember, to put it on the very bottom. So that's convenient. If you want to go to the last element in your collection, Control End, and it doesn't matter where you at. You will go there. It's not relative of, oh, it's the next sibling, all of this. No. Then you want to go to the parent. Control Home. And now, hey, incremental readings, and I record a video. Cool. Then, one detail is, if you have these synchronized, you only need to click. If you have the browser, if you have the contents and element windows not synchronized, clicking doesn't do the job. It's just selected. If you want to show it on the element window, instead of clicking, you need to double click. Now it's references. I click, it's not there. I need to double click. Okay. Then remember, Control space opens the contents of the branch in the browser, and Shift Enter is the same as double clicking. And then more or less we could end here, but just to let you know, and the Fluency is enough, just to let you know that you also have page up, page down. If I now do, I'm in here, splitting. I do page up, I go to the parent. Nope, I go to what? To the root. Here you go. Okay. If now I do page down, what I'm going? Do you see? It's actually not the root. That was misleading. It does a selection more or less of the screen. Do you see more or less the bottom is advanced templates? Okay. If I do page down, I am in web imports. Up once again, and I am on space repetition. Do you see I did jump? So it's the next element that I don't see after priorities. Cool. So what it does is jumping the selection of the screen. Meaning that if the knowledge tree was placed in pages, like a book, I will go to the next page. Here is priorities. The next page will start with what? After priorities, web imports. Here you go. Then that was misleading because I was very high, applied on, so therefore I already see the top. It's already my screen, right? This can be useful if you want to look at a lot of children that you have 500 or whatever, and you don't want to use the scrolling. Nice. And just to let you know, there are more key bindings with control page up, horizontal page up, so you can scroll horizontally or do some more fancy stuff. But I will put this on the mastery because usually you rely on the mouse for that. That's more or less the basic navigation of the knowledge tree in SuperMemo. Let's see the most common potentially pitfalls and challenges you will face while building the knowledge tree. So, even if it's powerful and even if it requires discipline, the consistency and so on, you'll face something. First, initial overhead. If you start doing the hierarchy, it is meaningless. Until you don't have enough content, it's not useful, right? For instance, if I now do these concepts, here is okay. Physics is empty, biology I only have 5, intelligence is 8, it's just one article. But hey, it's not artificial intelligence, it's human intelligence, okay? I have the artificial here, but this is pointless, right? I will need a lot more material there in those concept groups. Now it's too tiny, okay. Then, risk of premature structuring. Wait for it. So for instance, I want to read about human intelligence, and also I want artificial intelligence. So I make this distinction already. But therefore, could be the case that I do split that, hey, from AI, let me put language models on its own already. But let me wait to discover this need. Don't do it already, preemptively. Then neglect and the knowledge sequence. That you import, and that's all you do. Keep in mind, SuperMemo, it's a learning app. So it's good that, hey, I'm doing this, but I will do it during the summer. No. And then summer starts. Okay, I will do it later, it's too soon yet. Then it comes winter, and oh shit, I did nothing yet, right? So then you spend time, you did all of this. So imagine that now I move things around from my collection, or I import more stuff, and I populate biology, intelligence, AI, and physics, but I don't read any of those. So then what's the point, right? Don't overdo it preemptively. And difficulty of assessment. SuperMemo cannot note what's still important to you. Yes, you can assign a default priority for a concept, but remember that it's only used when it's the active concept in the collection. So you will have to judge the priority every single time. And this at the beginning has the difficulty overimposed by the difficulty of prioritization, not other than that. So conclusion, you're the architect of your own mind. The knowledge in SuperMemo is just a file system. What's powerful is what is coming to your brain. Easy. And investing time in a critical logical hierarchical structure, you create a logical system that enhances understanding, boosts your recall, and works in perfect harmony with incremental reading or learning in general. If that's not the case, you're wasting your time. Enhances your recall, and that's it. Okay, could be the case, it's worth. If it's something that you will lead anyways and so on, that is something that it just doesn't enhance your understanding at all. Doesn't boost your recall at all. It's more pretty to look at, the division, how you split the contents. This time could be invested in learning some other information. And while it requires discipline, alignment in tree is the foundation for a vast sea of information. Which is accessible. This is true in the long, very long term. That's why, for instance, I have seen very old collections, more than a decade old collections, and some are a complete mess that what I'm seeing, I cannot deduce what is in the knowledge tree because it's so chaotic. They neglected the knowledge tree for years or always, right? Or some people kind of very broad categories, concepts. They neglect concepts, so they just have folders. But at least more or less I can see that's math, that's that's language. And someone that are excruciatingly precise now, after many years, are precise. This has been gradual. And even though they have like voicing collections, even though you have about 1 million elements, you always talk in 100 because you have a very specialized concept or folder for that. Now, except language. Usually language, you will go into thousands anyways, but you get my point. And the more maintained has been for longer, the easier it is to maintain it. Easy. So remember, those are the Pitfalls, then you have the best practices to more or less compensate this. And at the end of the day, don't worry because it's non-essential. Now we're going to see how we can create elements in a knowledge tree manually by using the knowledge tree itself. Okay, so if I right click, I have this option, new, and I can create a new item, a new topic, but what would that be? A child? Because then it says a child, meaning that it won't be the same, right? And the child, which element type would be? Insert ceiling, wait, duplicate, that is a feature, and folder is, I can create a dismissed topic right away, a folder, right? But the folder will be a child or a sibling. I'm confused. Okay, so let's start with folder. Actually is a child. And the name is itself. The name of the element, parenthesis folder, and the name, the number, is how many you have. If I collapse everything, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's the number 10. It's the child number 10. Makes sense. If I do another one, it will be the 11th. Do you see? Awesome. And this is already a folder. It's dismissed. I don't have any template and so on. Awesome. Then if I put new topic, it's the same thing, but not dismissed. But then do you see the place color is different? Is the date stamp, the element number, parentheses the collection name. This already tells you the intention with a folder, right? Or versus non-folder. I won't be using the root. So now in this example, I make a topic, and a child. Okay, you may ask, what's the difference in this context? Okay, then if I select itself on the browser, just example, and now I want the descendants are both of them. Awesome. Let me go once again. Now if I do the extracts, none, because I extracted nothing. So just to let you know that there are some small differences. This will be scoped out for the Fluency. Just know there's some difference that we will see once we filter on the browser when you see the child, sources, articles, extracts, descendants. You may experience that, hey, nothing is filtered and so on, because of this, how you create the elements. Now, if I do new item, it's also a child. It's more or less if I have done the close deletion, but manually. This predates incremental reading. You're gonna still do that because it's the old school way to do it. Some people do it when they do, I don't know, language learning, or they add some material from a paper book or whatever. So instead of importing the content and processing the content, they already add the elements right away. And they just use topics as a what? As folders. And here, question and answer. The Anki style to add flashcards. Good to know that you can do that, but now it's irrelevant. With incremental reading, that will be an outlier case that you just take notes. Even that was the case, I will still do it. I will do a topic, make the question, and in the question, I will do the close deletion anyways. But just to let you know, you can do that. But keep in mind, it's very inefficient. You don't have the template, the consent group is not used, or you will use the default, the active in the collection, and some other stuff. It's not really a child, it's just physically a child, but it's not semantically a child. So if you move these around in your collection, you will lose that relationship. A lot of downsides. And the last thing is insert ceiling. And you can see it's the ceiling, but counterintuitively, It goes before, not after. So I will call it example 2. So you may expect that it will be created down here, the last child of the element. So here, it's a pleasurable learning, it's my root element. I have 11, 12, and now 13th. If I do add child, it goes to the latest one. But if I now do add sibling, hey, what happens here? That is an outlier case. Why? Because the root cannot have siblings. If I collapse this, I can have another one in the same level. Therefore, if you trigger the insert sibling, it will still be a child if you do it on the root element. That's why, let's do it here in example. New child equals at the bottom. New topic goes at the bottom. New sibling, instead of the bottom, but with hierarchy, like this, a hierarchy jump, no, it goes at the top. I don't know why. So just to let you know that all of this flow is always useful for incremental writing. You create, or you want to do folders on all of this. Not for incremental reading. For incremental reading, please do close deletion and extract, because it's only physically there. You don't have any semantic relationship. It's not useful for many things. You invest time, and a lot of things are not happening automatically, like the concept, template, and so on. It's very inefficient, and it's inefficient because those features are from the 90s. What happens that we use SuperMemo after almost 3 decades later, and then we don't know that that was very early on and has left for compatibility reasons. And it's not meant to be used like that. We don't know that, right? Because we started super late in the SuperMemo development. So now you know. Good to know you can do this, but this have to be outlier cases or for incremental writing flows, not for incremental reading. Let's see now some best practices for an effective knowledge tree. If you want to use it, I hope you do, there are some principles that will prevent some traps, limitations, or time wasted. That I will prevent that. Then, learn first, then memorize. You know what is already. It's the premise. Nothing out of the ordinary. Then, build from general to specific. That's the golden rule. You start, okay, what is a spaced repetition? Like now, to go meta, what he did. What is a knowledge tree? Why is not essential, is optional? The nomenclature there is, the power of the structure, the best practices, then the pitfalls and challenges, and then some ways to build a knowledge tree that I call the Taxonomist, Artisan, Architect, Synthesizer, and Librarian. Because there's no right and wrong, it's just different ways to do it, right? So I'm going to the more general to more specific. And diminishing returns. Then it's just one tiny detail that doesn't change much, or a redundancy that you can use a key binding instead of the mouse, but too specific, right? Then keep it simple. And I am guilty of this, of over-engineer, that I need way too much, way too soon. Let's start, let it breathe, let it grow. And as you have the need that, hey, that's too much, let me now fine-tune this. Let me be more specific. That, hey, I have a concept about SuperMemo, but could be SuperMemo, incremental reading, spaced repetition, Anki. Let's call it spaced repetition. Now I want to be more precise. It's a spaced repetition for language learning specifically, or for coding, right? So but I wait to have this requirement. I don't do it preemptively. Then be consistent. Sometimes if you spend time creating concepts or folders, do follow whatever you want, but follow that. follow the convention you decided to do, because then it loses its power. So you need consistency, not consistency in time, consistency in the organization. Then process your inbox metaphorically. It's not your email inbox. That means your important articles and so on. Because I can just bump material. Oh yeah, I'm making this, I'm checking this down to different concepts, I'm making this hierarchy and so on, but I'm not processing anything. If you're not processing anything, you are just archiving. Keep in mind, SuperMemo, it's incremental reading, it's a learning method. Needs not a second brain. You're not archiving for retrieval. You are not archiving. You are putting this into the queue at some time to be reviewed, processed, learned, even though it will be just a subset because we don't have time to read everything we want to. Therefore, you can use both the tree and concepts, meaning that you can do folders that are not concepts, like I do, for instance. Here, convention, or all of these by modifier, those are not concepts, are just folders that I did manually. Even the parent now is not even a concept anymore, because I don't need it. So those concepts, like here, are folders. If you use both, they're dynamic, cross-topic, you can do whatever, regardless of where they are. It's physically there, and it's semantically linked, so I only care about this. I don't care to make any link, every single link possible in the collection, because again, it's a learning app. I have to do it on my brain, not on the software. So, on the software I will do it because it's for processing this, and then I will do the neural review, as we will see, but not now. Let's continue with the knowledge tree, and now let's focus on the user interface, especially when moving things around manually with the mouse. So no worries, this is a backup, so we'll mess around. Don't do this on your own collection. Then, here I have one item. Then I can move it around. Do you see here it says link, and it's one horizontal bar. Now it's in the middle. Now let's say that I want the F12 to be between F2 and 3. It will be not this, not that, but this. Awesome. So what I'm doing, now let's say I want to undo this, so the F3 will be following F2. I have to put not inside, but between them. I cannot achieve that. This uncollapses the folder. I have to go horizontally to the left, and now it says the link. I have to exceed the indentation, more or less. And now we can do it. Just to let you know that sometimes, depends on your screen resolution, you really need surgeon precision. So if that's your case, you can just do right click, move, or Control Shift V. Then you decide where you want to put it. Let's say Shift in the same folder, and then it becomes the last element. Something valid. Nice. Then there's something else. Let's see, I want a child. Okay. Then if I click, if I put it on the parent, nothing happens, right? Okay. But if I have more, like this, now let's use this level of hierarchy. If I put now the F12 and I select the parent, it will go to the last one. It's the same thing I did with the right-clicking and moving. So when you select this, the highlight is the entire what. In this case, it's a folder. But let's call it element or parent. It always goes to the bottom. The new one is at the bottom. Now let's use some jargon. If it's a node, Let me now, for instance, that's a node. Okay. Then if I put F12, it becomes a child. Nice. But it had hierarchy, so I have this the child of the child. Nice, that is the descendant. Now if I put the F3 on top, it's again the last. So this is consistent. So remember, when you hover, it become a child and it will be the last child. And only if you go left and you have this link, this horizontal bar that is a lot tinier, it will be between, like this, between SMA and exporting as a sibling, not as a child. The difference, this headlight means child. The horizontal line that is narrower means sibling. But there's some key aspect that I failed to realize for quite a long time. It's very tiny. I really need to pay attention. If you look at the very top of the screen, now when I do this, do you see there's like a rectangle at the very left of the selection? This is telling you, hey, this will become a sibling. It's a link. And if I do this, there is not. So you can use this visual cue of what you're doing. And then do you see here the triangle is not the same position than here? One sec. This is telling you that, hey, it will be a child from the top bottom. And here, sorry, a sibling from the top bottom. And here from the top means it will be a child, the first child, if I release it. Nope, it's not a child. Why? Because as we have said, it's always a sibling. The only thing that it tells you is that it will be from down or up. That's it. So if I move it again in images, okay. Then let me use this. That is a leaf. There's less information. Okay. If I put it on top, look at the triangle. It's flat at the top, right? Means it will be above between SuperMemo for Exams and the Advanced English Collection, 2018. And if I do it here, do you see the rectangle is different? Wow, look. Oh my God, it requires a lot of precision. It's just this difference. So now you know that you can manually do this in SuperMemo. In case you depend on this flow, I suggest to have a big font so it's easier to do. And remember that always you have the move. The only side effect or limitation is that if you choose a node, it will become the last child in case you want to put some order. That you want to put some order, they're like something that can be automated, alphabetical or whatever. We will see this how to do it later in this section. But if it's manual, 1% manual, you will need to do this trickery. We're going to see now one feature in SuperMemo in the knowledge tree. And let's say that, okay, I have this concept group, business economy management. But, oh wow, it's too long. Do you see? I have to scroll. That's not efficient. So what I'm going to do is trigger one of the features, right click, tools, and regroup into folders. Is instead of 350 or 500, the maximum of children you can have, is no, I don't want to scroll, so I will put 25. That means SuperMemo is going to create hierarchy, dummy hierarchy. So at maximum, I have 25 elements as siblings. Do you see? Now I have up to 8 levels, and each level I have 25. And now I had another one, 2, and 2.2. So if I had even more elements, I will have 2.3, 2.4, and so on. And if I had a lot, like hundreds of thousands, I will have another level of hierarchy. So 1.1.1 and so on. This is already something I do for real on this year, for instance. In 2024, I have so many elements as placeholder. I don't know where to put them, or now I know. Sleeping positions will be on a sleep concept, but I haven't done the repetition yet, so it's waiting here. But do you see I have here a few with a hierarchy? Because it was messing around. It's no. I want to see the latest imports. And I do this time to time. Here it was the end of the year, so I moved to the 2025, so I didn't have the need to rerun this feature. But you get the point. In my case, this is temporary, because the actual folder, albeit it will last years, is temporary. It's a placeholder. Hey, I don't know what to put that. Let me do a to-do and split that by years, because I have a lot of imports unprocessed. So this is regroup in folders. Remember that you don't lose the hierarchy. Basically, you create hierarchy up. You create ancestors. It's the name of the folder and the numbers. So you have a long name. It will be better if you rename it to be shorter, because the name will be repeated every single time. Nice. Good feature. There's also used if you must import something we're not going to see in the Fluency. I import a collection of Anki of 2000 flashcards. I may want to do some kind of hierarchy, even if it's just numerical, every n elements, and that's it. There's no semantic hierarchy. At least you overcome the limitation of children, which is 500. So we have seen already the tool of regrouping folders. Now we're going to see the arrange in folders. What's the difference between regrouping? Is that rearrange doesn't care about the hierarchy. It will strip the hierarchy, meaning that in this case you had all of those. It will be the same because there are no children, but here in hierarchy, oh my god, no pun intended, then it will use the child, another child, and then the other sibling. Let's do this. So it's a backup, I don't mind. So tools, instead of regroup, rearrange. It's asking you, are you sure? Yes, because usually it's not what you want. And I'm asking how many children. I will put 25 as well. Then, what's the use case of this? When you imported something that is already flat, so there's actually no hierarchy, it won't have any difference rearranging or regrouping. And the question is, when do you want to flatten the hierarchy? I really don't know. So I know the feature is there, but I like to see one of the use cases. It's usually harming. It's not useful. If you really press me, it would be that if you do incremental reading for a long period of time, absolutely neglecting the knowledge tree at all, then you can do it. Just for the single thing of avoiding going beyond the limit of children. But you will have something even worse than before. That is just absolutely flattened. Do you see? This is child of what? It's from this article, but where's the parent? Right? I can locate it in the browser, but I have to do this one by one. Do you see in which way I want to see this? Being flattened. And that's a good example that I need up to 14 levels because I had 5,000 and something. So remember, it will be rearranged in the same sequence, the order. So if I open this on the browser, the sequence is still the same, exactly the same as before, but how it's distributed in the knowledge tree now is different. It's flat. Flat. So we have the hierarchy we created now, upwards, but everything now of what existed is already flat. Again, a feature you won't need to do. I put this on the Fluency just to make this reference that what you want is to regroup instead. So now you have seen the difference. And some of those are some of those features that are there in SuperMemo, but they predate incremental reading and you don't need to use them. Just to know that you don't need them is all you need to know, basically. We're going to see now how you can rearrange content in the knowledge tree. So usually it's just by chronological order. So what I have in this case, what I have imported, the more to the bottom, the most recent it is. That's it. There's nothing else than that. Let's say that, no, you know what? I want to put some order. Let's say alphabetical order, but not here, because it's more than processed, I don't know what I have. Let me go here. Business, management, all of that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is import. I open this, the entire thing. Business and economy. Now, I'm going to just choose this one. It's a trick. So I'm using this not as a concept, but as a node. And I want just the children. That's very important now to know the jargon. Because I don't want all of the descendants. I only want the immediate children. Child. So I will select all of the children. Do you see? Oh my god, I have quite a lot. Nice. Then, and I select sources. This is the first level of what I imported. Awesome. And now I sort by what I want. So in this case it's title. Boom. Alphabetical order. You see asterisk, I had several of the same. Businessman, product in practice. Okay, that works for now, right? Okay, but this is temporary. This order, this sort, is only on the browser. So what I can do, as long as I only have the same level of hierarchy, I don't have anything nested, I don't have any parent or any child, I can do it. Then I will use a trick of child and move. I will process the browser now, the second option, the second button, and move to a branch. And the branch will be itself. So actually I'm using this trick in SuperMemo that I'm not moving anything, but it will have the effect that is using the order currently in the browser. So now I have the same contents, but by alphabetical order. How cool is that? So I don't have to look at this part 1, 2, and 3 next to each other. I don't have to manually order this myself and so on. Just to let you know that you can do this for items if you want it, and could be anything. You can sort by child sources. Okay. You could sort by the last repetition. So what I neglected the most from February 2022. So if I see this in the hierarchy, let me click and just do it. It's valid. So let's actually do it. Remember, process the browser, second button, move to branch. It will be itself. This is interesting because this is what I did. I did a merge. I had 3 different concepts: business, economy, and management. That now it's one together. And now it's, hey, look at this. All of those people are together. It's from the same website because this happens to be the same order of importing. Because what happened is that I imported this once, and the last repetition was the importing. I only imported this. I never had any repetition. So here it will be easier to process in the sense that, hey, this is product management. This is management. more specifically product management. No, this is economy. So I can divide the concept now. Just to tell you one of the specific use cases. But there's one con. It has to be the same level of hierarchy. If you mix levels of hierarchy, you are messing big time with your collection. You're getting rid of the hierarchy, basically. Please don't do it. Or you will need to record from a backup. Now we're going to see something very fascinating, and it's to use the knowledge tree the other way around. So I will start from somewhere else, let's say view and my items. So I will see all of the items I have in my collection. Okay. Then I want to filter those by what? By a branch in my knowledge tree. So open the browser menu, child, and branch. And now you have to navigate the branch. I will do incremental writing. So I want to take out all of the children. I want to take out all of the items that are from somewhere else in the collection. And here you go. In this case, it's not much useful. I did this on purpose because I can achieve the same result as going incremental writing, open all of this, open the branch, and then just filter the items. If I go here and now I filter items, it's the same result, even quicker. In this case, it's not that useful because it's even slower to do. It's especially useful when you have some weird combination that is very hard to reproduce. What I mean by that? For instance, something we will see later. Oh, those are the elements I had scheduled last Sunday. Okay, and now I want only from language. So we'll go here, press enter, and here you go. I had 60 something, 56 were from language. Okay, so I have taken out whatever else there is. This is especially useful because you can do, I don't know, semi-liches, what you have postponed, what was added last year that you have done no repetition. So you can go to view, filter, do any combination. I only want up to one repetition, which interval is up to a month, and the last repetition was very long ago. Was at the beginning of the year. So something I haven't seen this year yet, and the interval is less than a month, and I haven't done any repetition yet, only the memorized one. I can do this, and then let me filter just language, just incremental reading, or whatever combination I want to. That's the power. If you use the knowledge tree, it's a power you can use. Do whatever criteria you have, whatever subset you have, then you filter it down by branch. Now I have a good example that I created a lot of dummy elements, but if I select them like this, and I want to delete element, yes. Element, yeah, I told you that. Yeah, element, I told you that. SuperMemo is going one by one. This is super painful. So then let me cancel. So what you can do instead is move them all in the same place. You don't care because you're going to delete them right away. So now I select the parent, which is the example, and I delete everything. So you put everything in a folder, or a folder of subfolders, you don't care because you're going to delete this right after. So at the very end, you only have one node. You delete that node and all of the hierarchy, all of the descendants. Why this solution? Because SuperMemo has not been designed to have a button that says yes to all. Something as basic as this, it doesn't exist. So you can do this. It's still some manual approach, but it's what it is. It's better. So let's say you want to remove here everything but memory. I will move memory out, and then since 2025 it's already a node, I will delete it. Here you go. Easy. Not perfect, but the easiest in SuperMemo. This may save you tons of clicks, especially if you want to delete like this 15,000 or a lot of material. Imagine I have to do one by one every single time. What a pain. So we will see now that Taxonomist, one of most formal classification philosophy for building your knowledge tree. It's not right or wrong, depends on how you want to do it. So the core principle is that each piece of knowledge has a precise, logical place in universal hierarchical system. It's very strict. How it works, the user defines or adopts a strict comprehensive hierarchy where every single category is mutually exclusive and logically exhaustive. So this can only be in this particular place in the knowledge tree. For instance, the example I have done recurrently in this situation, it's an article about memory in the spectrum, in the autism spectrum. Okay, this goes to memory or this goes to the autistic spectrum disorder? I have to choose one, right? So here we'll have some hierarchy that is, no, it's only in this place, whatever that is. For example, if it's biology, because it's very easy, no, it's first kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, and so on. If you're a scientist, engineer, librarian, and so on, this could be the case. I know someone who used SuperMemo for just one single purpose of the some standard like this in engineering, and some other person in Spanish language, which can also be classified according to the academia like that. So you follow that standard. Isn't a standard. It's an artificial decision, right? And he follows the same structure in the knowledge tree, because you only use SuperMemo for that. In that case, it's a good approach. It is one of the advantages, extremely rigorous and ambiguous. Where this goes, it can only be in one place, because it's something fixed, unlimited. But if I use SuperMemo for anything, this will be extremely hard to do. Then, skills logically, you just nest down more and more. The one in engineering, I think the book that described how to organize it was like 800 pages or something like that. So you can have everything you have ever heard of, and for such clarity. Because the fact that you know where to place it already knows what you're doing, what's the content. The advantages, it's very brittle and inflexible, and high overheads. Most of the time it's an overkill. I don't suggest the Taxonomist unless you have this flow. That no. I use the libraries. Okay, this is just by have some standard, but not everything. Just having, I don't know, science, human science, or logical, and then you do your own. Or if you have a very concrete specific use of SuperMemo, you don't do free learning. You just have one collection specifically for this. Then do it. For instance, imagine I had one collection just for my SuperMemo course. In my case, it's just a concept in my collection, right? Then I could do it. That those are the sections. The sections have this sequence of order, and this can only be in one specific place. Not in the fluency, because the fluency is superficial. There are many things that are nowhere, unlike the mastery, right? Once I do this, but for the mastery, I could follow the Taxonomist if I wanted to. And the other is that, hey, perhaps you want to do this, but just for one branch of your collection, for biology. So the rest of my collection, I will use some other philosophy. Because keep in mind, doesn't have to be the entire collection. First, you can have different collections that use different philosophies, or some philosophies will allow to mix philosophies, is what I would suggest. That's everything from the first one, the Taxonomist. let's see the Artisan, the workflow state philosophy for organizing and building the knowledge tree. So the Artisan organizes the knowledge, not by the knowledge that there is, but the stage of processing it is. The tree becomes a kind of assembly line for ideas moving from raw material to finished product. This philosophy is explicitly supported by SuperMemo distinction between topics, items, tasks, and so on. So let's see in detail. The core principle is that the location of the piece of knowledge should reflect its maturity. This could be, let's say, more friendly. If you're a Nike user, it's more likely you will do this. So you have an inbox. Inbox, not as an analogy to email, doesn't mean incremental email. So the new imports, flying notes, raw articles that are unprocessed, you just import it and that's it. What you're processing, what is in the learning, then the core knowledge that is permanent, topic-based, and so on. Then what you want to expand, that, hey, I had done already the big picture, the surface, I want to dig further, the see also further reading kind of thing, and then something else that is just archived, that is completed, or it's outdated. So I have this just for reference. Who is that for? For a highly systematic learner who wants this kind of process this, and is encluttered, a daily review is like more task-based, process and move. There are cons, but I suggest this if you are a Nike user, because you will have adopted this flow, or could be adopted this flow, just because of the massive Anki limitations, not because you actually want it this way. So advantages, first, clarity of action. You know what to process, what to load, and so on just by the placement there is. Managers overwhelm. So if the inbox is too much, you will just put archive or whatever, so you have the flow. And since you have this, let's say you have too much to process, the inbox will suffer. Meaning, if we go to the beginning again, you won't expand further unless you recover the backlog of learning. This makes sense. And since you have this in different places, it's very easy to do subsets and so on. So once this is tackled, then, okay, let me expand on that. That I run out of material to expand on, I will process more, and so on, even if it's heuristic. And encourage refinement. Nothing more to expand on that. Then the disadvantages is high maintenance. Every day you need to be updating the stuff to be up to date. You need to groom, basically. Like if you do task management in companies with Scrum and all of this, and the structure is meta-knowledge. Describes the state of the knowledge, not the knowledge itself, like the Taxonomist, which is not necessarily bad, but in combination with our philosophies, with a synthesizer, could be complex or incompatible. That, hey, I do this, the Artisan, but not for language. For language, I will use something completely different. Because it's a lot harder to do a subset that doesn't do that, right? Now let's see the architect, the goal-oriented philosophy to build a knowledge tree. The architect isn't concerned with the knowledge that came from or what broad topic it belongs to. Instead, these people, the architects, organize knowledge around a specific tangible output or project. Nice. So let's see this in detail. The core principle, therefore, the knowledge should be structured to serve a specific actionable purpose. Hey, I want to understand, let's say I have been diagnosed with hypertension. Hey, I want to see what are the risks or what I should change in my lifestyle to get rid of the hypertension and get back to baseline. One specific example. Then, let's say that I have some goals that, hey, I want to launch a new website. So market research, competitor analysis, And in order to do that, I will need to learn some of the specific tools or platforms, even perhaps some coding and so on. So then I use the knowledge tree like this. Hey, marketing. That could become a concept about marketing. Blog post ideas, perhaps this is more, I will read something, but it's more creative, incremental writing, perhaps, right? And then I will have something that is more like learning for coding, which I will use incremental reading, but it will be like 10% of the time for that. So globally, this is ideal for consultants, project managers, entrepreneurs, anyone who works on a thesis. So therefore, your SuperMemo collection is based on your PhD, and that's it, or just that collection, meaning you do your own stuff and you have a specialized collection for your PhD. Doesn't mean that you only use SuperMemo for that. Usually, at least based on the tutorials I had, they start like this. So I do the PhD and then I have a collection smaller because they don't have enough time that they do the free stuff. And then once they graduate and so on, they do the opposite. They follow more the other collection, or they just merge it. This is one example, could be anything, any project you want to think of. Advantages is extremely practical. So you import, process information, memorize some information, convert it into knowledge that is actionable, best case possible. Reduces procrastination, because if it doesn't make it in the plan, it will just be archived or deleted. So you won't memorize trivia just because I can memorize trivia. It's finite and focused. So it is better for managing overload because no, I only want marketing, but for my product. So I don't know, marketing for makeup products and so on, I don't care. Has nothing to do with what I want. My goal is software, right? So I only want to learn and to read about how to market software products. So it's more focused and it's finite. The scope, it is what it is. Once I launch the company or the product or whatever, and according to the plan, or launching, I think someone shared that you use SuperMemo to launch something on Kickstarter. So once you launch and it has been successful, you're done, because it was a project. A very long project, perhaps a couple of years, but it's finite in time. What is the advantage? The knowledge siloing. Ideas learned on one project might be easily discovered for use in another. So let's say that you don't see not the knowledge, how to call it. So even if you learn some concrete example, you can extrapolate this. You can make the abstraction, right? The pattern. And then you can see this instantiate an instance in marketing, in biology, neuroscience, that, hey, it's the same idea, right? The same concept. But if you do it so applied that everything is through to be applied in a project, you deform this, the knowledge siloing, that, hey, I have not seen the abstract format, I have seen already the implementation in one specific case, let's say marketing or area, and I have this so endogamically, and I iterate on that, then now it's a lot harder to see it in a different perspective or in a different domain. Or some insights that could be buried, like waiting for you that it's outstanding in 2 years or whatever, in an old branch, but now you don't see it because this is from a project that you have completed already. And you have some golden nuggets lost, unseen, overlooked. I have done this myself. And basically, more or less what I do with the course. It's not exactly like this. I use Notion in reality because I want SuperMemo to just be the container of the slides and so on. But the philosophy, it will be the architect. It's just I don't use SuperMemo alone for that. I hope it's easier to understand. This has been the architect, one of the ways to build a knowledge tree. Let's continue with yet another way another philosophy to build a knowledge tree in incremental reading. That's a lot more straight to your face. The synthesizer strategy, organizing by topic. You organize extracts by topic irrespective of their source. So if it's from Wikipedia, a book, Voshnik, whatever, no. It's by topic, spaced repetition. So building a conceptual framework. You group related ideas from various sources. Usually this will be like the most obvious way to build the knowledge tree. I have here, let me do some examples. I have health. So I don't care if it's a research paper, an article, a Wikipedia. Look at this. A Wikipedia article about tomato is, oh, what is this? What makes it in health, right? Oh, yes, because one specific case that is the alpha-tomatin, specifically. One component. Here you go. I have it here as well. The metabolism, and so on. You can go to a rabbit hole. Okay. So therefore, I don't care if it's Wikipedia, it's some formal study or whatever. I just care that it's on the same framework, health. Fosters creativity and insight, juxtaposed information, especially in this case, nutrition, especially veganism and meat eaters, that, hey, if you want health and longevity, go plant-based. And you will have research that say, no, if you go plant-based, you will have this and that. Wait, I have not information of people or opinions. I have research, peer-to-peer research, that they just contradict each other. It's not that they don't see the same. That, hey, that is significant, this is not significant. No, it is significant, and the other is the opposite is significant. It increases mortality, and the other say, no, if you don't eat animal products, it increases the mortality. So they state exactly the opposite. What do you trust? You need to juxtapose information and all of this. So therefore, you don't care the sources, you care about the content, topic. It's about health, it's about, because sometimes it's not the plant, it's what is being added. It's, hey, this chemical that makes cheaper because it doesn't rot as quick, so can be stored for longer or whatever, makes it cheaper, but yeah, this chemical has effect in the what it's eaten, What example? Then, efficient knowledge retrieval. When you want to review everything you know about, concept topic based, structure is more efficient. For instance, I come from the tomato and because I read tomato, not because I want a recipe in my case, but of that chemical, and this is linked to this, is linked to the chemicals, the pesticides, and reduces redundancy. Because sometimes could be overlapping ideas or overlapping information from different sources. So one discusses more the chemical of the fat, the other is more of the chemicals that are being added, the other one is more genetic, is regardless of the quality of the source, could be top-notch quality, that for you is not good, right? You cannot metabolize the fat at the same degree because you have this disease, or you have this gene, or you lack this other gene, therefore you cannot tolerate the lactose or whatever. So, again, it's the easiest to do, organized by topic, not by source, and you are just a synthesizer. Easy to do, and it's the one that I recommend for incremental reading, like default. We have seen the architect is goal-oriented, also valid, and you can combine this. You can have, publish a paper, or publish a book, or to get fit, whatever goal you may have. Or to be a parent, you just want to be a parent, you just had a child, hey, let me do parenting, right? The best I can do. It's a goal. You have it on your own, but the rest of the collection will be by topic. But you're not going to do a taxonomist. No. This is the science, no. I just do my own. So this has been the synthesizer strategy for building a knowledge tree. Incrementally.